I'm Amanda Walker, 29, and I've always prided myself on my perfect credit score. So when my phone pinged with a bank notification about an $800,000 loan payment due, my heart nearly stopped. This had to be a mistake. The customer service representative confirmed a loan was processed in my name with all my personal details. When he mentioned the property address, a chill ran down my spine. That neighborhood, that was where my sister Rachel was house hunting. If you're watching this, please hit like and subscribe and let me know where you're tuning in from. You won't believe how I turned the tables on the most shocking betrayal of my life. Before that fateful notification changed everything, my life in Chicago was exactly as I'd planned it. After graduating with honors in finance from Northwestern, I landed a job at Meridian Financial Partners, one of the most prestigious firms in the Midwest. Over 6 years, I worked my way up from junior analyst to senior financial advisor, managing portfolios for high-net-worth clients. My apartment wasn't fancy, a one-bedroom in Lincoln Park, but it was mine, and I decorated it carefully, saving up for each piece of furniture rather than going into debt. My parents, Margaret and Richard Walker, had always emphasized financial responsibility, especially after they struggled early in their marriage. Live within your means, my dad would say, and I took that advice to heart. My relationship with my parents was solid. Sunday dinners at their suburban home were a ritual, with Mom always making too much food and sending me home with leftovers. Dad would talk investments with me, proud that I'd followed in his financial footsteps after his retirement from banking. Then there was Rachel, my older sister by 3 years. Our relationship was complicated. From the outside, we looked close enough. We showed up at family events, exchanged birthday gifts, and maintained the appearance of sisterly affection. But underneath ran currents of tension that had existed since childhood. Rachel was always the beautiful one, with our mother's striking blue eyes and natural blonde hair. I took after our father, practical, analytical, with unremarkable brown hair and eyes. While I excelled academically, Rachel charmed her way through life, her magnetic personality opening doors that my studiousness couldn't. Rachel could sell ice to Eskimos, our grandmother used to say admiringly. And it was true. My sister had an uncanny ability to get what she wanted, whether it was the last cookie, the lead in the school play, or our parents' attention. The pattern started early. When I was 6, I received a limited edition Barbie for my birthday, the one item I'd circled in the catalog and dreamed about for months. 2 days later, I found it in Rachel's room, its hair cut and clothes missing. When I complained to our parents, Rachel cried and said I had given it to her, then changed my mind. Be generous with your sister, Mom said, wiping Rachel's crocodile tears. I learned then that evidence and truth mattered less than perception and emotion, at least where Rachel was concerned. As we grew older, the taking evolved. In high school, she borrowed my clothes without asking, returning them stained or stretched. In college, she used my student ID to attend campus events when she'd lost privileges due to an incident at a frat party. After graduation, she accidentally used my credit card information saved on our shared family Amazon account for a shopping spree. Each time, there was an excuse, an apology that sounded sincere, and a promise it would never happen again. And each time, I forgave her because that's what family does, right? Despite these irritations, I maintained boundaries. I never shared my passwords, kept important documents in a locked file cabinet, and monitored my credit regularly. I thought I was being careful enough. While Rachel jumped from job to job, real estate agent, marketing coordinator, personal shopper, I built my career methodically. She married Brandon Phillips, a commercial developer, in a lavish wedding that our parents helped finance despite their limited retirement savings. I remained single until meeting Daniel Thompson at a charity fundraiser 2 years ago. Daniel was different from the men I'd dated before, thoughtful, secure in himself, and genuinely kind. As a pediatric physical therapist, he approached life with both compassion and practicality. He understood my careful approach to finances and shared similar values, though he was more spontaneous than I would ever be. "You balance me," he'd say, pulling me away from my spreadsheets to watch a sunset or try a new restaurant. With my career on solid ground and our relationship deepening, I had started planning for my next goal, homeownership. For 3 years, I'd been saving aggressively for a down payment, foregoing vacations and shopping sprees. My recent promotion and bonus put me within reach of my target. Daniel and I had started casually looking at condos, though we were taking things slow. The Friday before the bank notification, we'd celebrated my upcoming 30th birthday with a small dinner party at my apartment. Rachel and Brandon came, bringing an expensive bottle of champagne and a card that read, "To New Beginnings." I remember Rachel hugging me unusually tight, whispering, "Everything's going to change soon, sis." I thought she was referring to my birthday milestone or perhaps knew about Daniel's hints regarding a future proposal. If only I'd known what she really meant. The notification came on a Tuesday morning while I was preparing for a client meeting. The banking app on my phone chimed with what I initially assumed was my regular account alert. Instead, the message froze me in place. "Your monthly payment of $4,267.89 for loan number 4582937 is due in 7 days." I blinked, certain it was an error. I had a small car loan and a modest credit card balance, both of which I paid religiously, but nothing remotely approaching a payment that size. With trembling fingers, I called the bank's customer service number. "Good morning, Northeast Federal. This is Gregory Thompson. How may I assist you today?" The representative's voice was professionally cheerful. "Hi, I just received a notification about a loan payment, but I think there's been a mistake. I don't have any loans of this size." I tried to keep my voice steady as I explained the situation. "I'd be happy to look into that for you. Could I have your name and the last 4 digits of your social security number for verification?" After confirming my identity, Mr. Thompson pulled up my account information. The pause before he spoke sent warning signals through my body. "Ms. Walker, according to our records, you initiated a home loan in the amount of $800,000 approximately 6 weeks ago. The property is located at 1542 Lakeview Terrace. The loan was approved based on your credit history, income verification, and the appraisal of the property." My stomach dropped. That's impossible. I never applied for any home loan, especially not for $800,000. And I don't know anything about a property on Lakeview Terrace. "I understand your concern, Ms. Walker. This is a serious matter. Looking at the application, it appears to have been submitted online with all your personal information, including your social security number, employment details, and electronic signature." My mind raced. Identity theft. It had to be. But who would have access to so much of my personal information? "I need to dispute this immediately," I said, my financial training kicking in. "This is fraud." Mr. Thompson's tone shifted to one of concern. "In that case, I'll transfer you to our fraud department right away. They'll walk you through the process of filing a claim and placing a freeze on any further activity." The next 2 hours disappeared into a bureaucratic maze as I spoke with the fraud department, filed reports, and scheduled an in-person appointment at the bank for the following day. The meeting would cause me to miss an important client presentation, but my entire financial future was at stake. That evening, I pulled my credit reports from all 3 bureaus. What I found sent waves of nausea through me. Not only was there an $800,000 mortgage in my name, but 3 new credit cards had been opened in the past month with combined balances of over $50,000. Purchases included furniture, appliances, and high-end electronics. The address listed for all these accounts was 1542 Lakeview Terrace, a property I'd never seen in an upscale neighborhood north of the city. With shaking hands, I typed the address into Google Maps. The street view showed a beautiful colonial-style home with a manicured lawn and circular driveway. I zoomed out to see the neighborhood and felt my chest tighten. This was Lakeside Heights, an exclusive community where homes started at $1 million. Rachel had mentioned this area repeatedly over the past year, sighing over real estate listings and dragging me to an open house there last summer. Someday, she'd said, gazing longingly at a similar colonial, I'll live in a house like this. A terrible suspicion formed in my mind. I called Rachel immediately, but the call went straight to voicemail. I sent a text, need to talk to you ASAP. It's important. No response. Next, I called my parents. Mom, has Rachel mentioned buying a new house recently? My mother hesitated just a fraction too long. Why do you ask, dear? Mom, please. This is important. She sighed. Well, yes. She and Brandon just bought a beautiful place in Lakeside Heights. They're very excited. They're having a housewarming party this Saturday. I thought you knew. Didn't you get the invitation? My blood ran cold. What's the address? Let me check the invitation. 1542, Lakeview Terrace. Amanda, what's going on? You sound strange. I couldn't bring myself to explain the situation to my mother yet, not until I had all the facts. I'll call you back, Mom. I need to check something. After hanging up, I searched my email and found the digital invitation from Rachel, sent 3 days ago and buried under work messages. The subject line read, Our Dream Home Housewarming, with an animated gif of champagne glasses clinking. I hadn't opened it, assuming it was just another of Rachel's extravagant parties. The invitation confirmed my worst fears. Rachel and Brandon were hosting a housewarming at 1542 Lakeview Terrace, the address on the fraudulent loan in my name. Sleep was impossible that night. I researched identity theft laws, penalties for mortgage fraud, and how to protect myself from further damage. The more I learned, the more devastated I became. This wasn't just about money. This was a betrayal so profound it made me physically ill. By morning, one question burned in my mind. How could my own sister do this to me? The meeting at Northeast Federal Bank the next day confirmed my worst suspicions. I sat across from Mr. Thompson and his colleague from the Fraud Investigation Unit, Martha Reyes, as they spread documents across the conference table. Ms. Walker, these are copies of the loan application submitted in your name, Martha said, sliding several papers toward me. Do you recognize the signature? I examined the electronic signature. It was close to mine, but with subtle differences. The loop in the O was too rounded, the cross on the T too long. This isn't my signature, but someone tried to make it look like mine. And this is the identification provided during the online verification process, she continued, showing me a scan of my driver's license. My stomach lurched. It was indeed my license, the same one I'd reported missing 3 months ago after a dinner with Rachel. I'd assumed it fell out of my wallet at the restaurant. Someone would need extensive personal information to complete this application, Mr. Thompson explained. Your social security number, employment history, tax returns, bank statements. My sister would have access to most of that, I said quietly. We grew up in the same house. She knows my birthday, my mother's maiden name, probably even my first pet's name for security questions. And she's been to my apartment countless times. Martha nodded sympathetically. Family fraud is unfortunately common, though usually not at this scale. Do you have any proof your sister is behind this specifically? Not yet, but I'm working on it. After leaving the bank, I called the private investigator Daniel had recommended, a former client of his who owed him a favor. Maxwell Jenkins agreed to look into Rachel and Brandon's finances and gather whatever evidence he could find connecting them to the fraudulent loan. While waiting for Maxwell's report, I searched Rachel's social media accounts. There it was, posted just a week ago, a photo of Rachel standing proudly in front of 1542 Lakeview Terrace, captioned Dreams Do Come True. #new home, #blessed. The comments section overflowed with congratulations and questions about how they could afford such a magnificent house. Rachel's reply to one comment made my blood boil. Hard work and smart financial planning pay off. Hashtag deserved. I scrolled through more photos. Rachel showing off the gourmet kitchen, Brandon grilling on the expansive deck, selfies in front of the marble fireplace. They were living in a house purchased with my stolen identity, flaunting it publicly while I faced financial ruin. The formal housewarming invitation arrived in my mailbox that afternoon, an elegant card with gold embossing. Inside, Rachel had written, "Can't wait to show you our new place. You're going to be so jealous. Love you, sis." That evening, my parents came over after I insisted we needed to talk in person. They sat uncomfortably on my couch as I paced the small living room. "Did you help Rachel and Brandon buy their new house?" I asked directly. They exchanged glances. "No, honey," my father answered. "We couldn't afford to. You know our retirement isn't that substantial." "Then how do you think they afforded an $800,000 house in Lakeside Heights?" "Brandon's company has been struggling since the pandemic, and Rachel hasn't held a steady job in years." My mother fidgeted with her wedding ring. "Rachel said Brandon made some smart investments that paid off. We didn't ask for details." "And you didn't find that suspicious?" "That suddenly they could afford a mansion." "Amanda," my father said sternly, "what are you implying?" I took a deep breath and laid out everything: the fraudulent loan, the stolen identity, the credit cards, the investigation. As I spoke, my mother's face crumpled while my father's reddened with anger. "There must be some mistake," my mother insisted. "Rachel wouldn't do something like this." "Like what, Mom? Like stealing my Barbie when I was 6? Like borrowing my clothes in high school? Like using my student ID in college? Like accidentally using my credit card? This is just Rachel doing what Rachel has always done, taking what's mine, but on a much larger scale." My father stood up, his banker's mind processing the implications. "If what you're saying is true, this is a federal crime. Rachel could go to prison." "I know, Dad." My voice cracked. "Do you think I want that? But what about me? My credit is ruined. I'm on the hook for nearly $1 million of debt. My entire future is destroyed because Rachel wanted a fancy house she couldn't afford." My mother began to cry. "There has to be another explanation. Maybe Brandon did this without telling her." I laughed bitterly. "Mom, you've been making excuses for Rachel our entire lives. When does it stop?" They left promising to talk to Rachel to get her side of the story. I knew it wouldn't help. Rachel would deny everything, cry, make them feel guilty for doubting her. The pattern was too ingrained to break. After they left, I collapsed on my bed, the weight of betrayal crushing my chest. Daniel came over, holding me as I alternated between tears and rage. "I can't believe she would do this to me," I sobbed into his shoulder. "My own sister. Does she hate me that much?" Daniel stroked my hair gently. "I don't think it's about hate, Amanda. Some people just feel entitled to things they haven't earned. They don't think about consequences because they've never really faced any." His words triggered a memory from when I was 12 and Rachel 15. She had taken my journal, reading my private thoughts aloud to her friends at a sleepover. When I confronted her, devastated by the invasion of privacy, she'd shrugged and said, "If you didn't want people to know, you shouldn't have written it down." No apology, no recognition of the pain she'd caused, just a casual dismissal of my feelings. That night, as Daniel slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling wondering what my future held. My carefully constructed plans were in shambles. The down payment I'd saved might now go to legal fees. My perfect credit score, which I'd protected so diligently, was in ruins. The promotion I'd worked so hard for could be jeopardized if this affected my professional reputation. All because Rachel wanted a house she couldn't afford and decided mine was the financial identity she'd steal to get it. The next morning, Maxwell called with his preliminary findings. "Brandon Phillips's development company is on the verge of bankruptcy," he reported. "They've been living on credit cards for months. There's no way they qualified for that mortgage legitimately." "What about the loan application?" I asked. "I'm still working on that, but I did find something interesting. Your sister's laptop was serviced at a repair shop last month. The technician remembers her asking how to use Photoshop to edit PDF documents. Another piece of the puzzle fell into place. Rachel had digitally altered my documents to create the fraudulent loan application. By Friday, 3 days after discovering the fraud, my emotions had crystallized from hurt to determination. I contacted my lawyer friend Jessica Martinez, who specialized in financial crimes. Based on what you've told me, this is clear-cut identity theft and mortgage fraud, Jessica said. The evidence is overwhelming. If you press charges, your sister is looking at significant jail time. What are my options? I asked. You could pursue criminal charges, which would likely result in prison time for Rachel. Or you could handle it civilly, force her to transfer the deed to you or sell the house to pay off the loan. And if I do nothing? Jessica's expression turned serious. Then you're responsible for the debt. Your credit is already damaged. Foreclosure would devastate it further. This could affect your ability to rent apartments, get jobs, buy a car, for years to come. The reality of my situation hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't just about a betrayal of trust. Rachel had potentially destroyed my financial future. As Saturday approached, I made my decision. I wouldn't let Rachel get away with this, not this time. No more excuses, no more forgiveness without consequences. For once, my sister would face the results of her actions. Saturday morning, I met Mr. Thompson at the Northeast Federal Branch Office. After nearly a week of investigation, the bank had compiled substantial evidence of the fraud. We've verified that the IP address used to submit the loan application matches your sister's home internet service, Mr. Thompson explained, spreading documents across his desk. The electronic signature was created using a program registered to Rachel Phillips. And we have security footage of her entering a branch office to submit additional documentation. What happens now? I asked. That depends on you, Ms. Walker. The bank can pursue this as a criminal matter, or we can work with you on a resolution that protects your financial standing. I thought carefully before responding. I want to confront her today at the housewarming party. I want her to admit what she's done in front of everyone who matters to her. Mr. Thompson raised his eyebrows. That's an unusual approach. My sister has been taking things from me our entire lives without consequences. This time will be different. I leaned forward. Would you be willing to accompany me to the party as a representative of the bank? He hesitated. It's not standard procedure, but given the circumstances, yes, I could attend in an official capacity. We spent the next hour planning our approach. Mr. Thompson would bring copies of all the fraudulent documents, the bank's investigation findings, and formal papers to begin transferring the loan responsibility back to Rachel and Brandon. I called Maxwell to update him on the plan. Can you meet us at the house before the party starts? I need all the evidence you've gathered. I'll be there, he promised. And I've found something else you should know. Your brother-in-law, Brandon, may not be completely aware of what Rachel did. Their text messages suggest he believes they qualified for the loan legitimately. This information gave me pause. Was Brandon an innocent victim like me, or was he willfully ignoring red flags? Either way, he'd be facing the consequences alongside Rachel. Next, I called Daniel. Are you sure you want to do this? He asked after I explained my plan. It's going to be messy. I'm sure, I replied. Rachel needs to face what she's done. And I need to stand up for myself. Then I'll be right beside you, he promised. As I prepared for the confrontation, I experienced moments of doubt and guilt. Despite everything, Rachel was still my sister. We shared childhood memories, family holidays, inside jokes. Was I really going to publicly expose her crimes and potentially send her to prison? Then I remembered my conversation with Jessica about the long-term consequences I faced. Without intervention, Rachel's actions would impact every financial decision in my future, from renting an apartment to buying a car, from job applications to insurance rates. My sister hadn't just stolen my identity. She'd stolen my future security. I called my parents one more time, giving them a final chance to intervene. I'm confronting Rachel at the housewarming today, I told them. If you can get her to admit what she did and agree to make it right before then, I might consider handling this privately. My father cleared his throat uncomfortably. We tried talking to her, Amanda. She denied everything, said you're just jealous of her success. Of course she did. And you believed her? My mother's voice was small. We don't know what to believe, honey. Then you'll find out the truth today, along with everyone else. After hanging up, I sat on my bed, a shoebox of childhood mementos open beside me. Photos of Rachel and me building sandcastles at the beach, holding hands at our grandparents' anniversary party, making silly faces at my college graduation. Moments when being sisters meant something. I picked up a friendship bracelet Rachel had made for me when I was 10, a rare gesture of affection during a summer when she'd been grounded and had no one else to play with. She'd moved on to her friends as soon as the grounding ended, but for those few weeks, we'd been close. Had she ever really loved me? Or had I always just been someone she could use when convenient? The afternoon arrived, and with it, a clarity I hadn't felt since discovering the fraud. This confrontation wasn't just about the loan or the house. It was about finally breaking a lifelong pattern of taking and excusing, of betrayal and forgiveness. It was about standing up for myself after decades of giving in. I dressed carefully in a professional black dress and subtle jewelry, nothing flashy that Rachel could dismiss as trying to upstage her. Daniel picked me up at 4, looking handsome and supportive in a blue button-down shirt. "Ready?" he asked, squeezing my hand. I took a deep breath. "Ready." We arranged to meet Mr. Thompson and Maxwell a block from Rachel's house at 4:30, half an hour before the party officially began. The housewarming was scheduled from 5 to 8, giving guests plenty of time to admire the house Rachel had fraudulently acquired. As we drove toward Lakeside Heights, my phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. "Can't wait to see you at the party. Prepare to be amazed by our new palace. Crown. No guilt. No fear of being caught. Just pure, unapologetic gloating." Any lingering doubts I had about my plan evaporated. Today, Rachel would finally learn that actions have consequences. We arrived at the meeting point at exactly 4:30. Mr. Thompson was already waiting, a leather portfolio under his arm containing all the evidence of Rachel's fraud. Maxwell pulled up moments later, adding his own file of findings to our arsenal. According to the loan documents, a spare key should be hidden in a lockbox on the side gate for the bank's appraisers, Mr. Thompson informed us, consulting his notes. The code is 5829. "Are you sure we should go in before they're expecting guests?" Daniel asked. I nodded firmly. I want to be inside when Rachel arrives. I want her to know immediately that something's wrong. We walked the block to 1542, Lakeview Terrace. The house was even more impressive in person, a stately colonial with white columns flanking the front door, professionally landscaped gardens, and a 3-car garage. My sister had expensive taste, especially when spending my credit. As Mr. Thompson had predicted, we found the lockbox and retrieved the key. With a strange sense of entitlement, this house was technically in my name. After all, I unlocked the front door and stepped into the grand foyer. The interior was stunning. Marble floors, a sweeping staircase, crystal chandelier overhead. The furniture was all new, presumably purchased with the fraudulent credit cards opened in my name. Through an archway, I could see caterers setting up in the gourmet kitchen, arranging appetizers on silver platters. "Mrs. Phillips?" One of the caterers approached, clipboard in hand. "We've set up the bar in the sunroom as requested. The bartender will arrive at 4:45. "I'm not Mrs. Phillips," I replied. "I'm Amanda Walker, the person whose identity was stolen to buy this house." The caterer's eyes widened as she backed away, clearly wanting no part in whatever drama was unfolding. We toured the house, taking note of every expensive fixture and piece of furniture. In the master bedroom, Rachel's clothes already filled the walk-in closet, designer labels with tags still attached. Brandon's home office was equipped with top-of-the-line electronics. The guest rooms were perfectly staged, as if from a magazine spread. "She really went all out with your money," Maxwell observed, photographing a receipt for a $12,000 bedroom set. At 4:50, we heard the garage door open. I positioned myself in the center of the living room, with Daniel, Mr. Thompson, and Maxwell slightly behind me. My heart pounded as I heard Rachel's voice, bright and excited. "The caterers should have everything set up by now. I can't wait to see everyone's faces when they see the house." The door from the garage opened and Rachel entered, arms full of shopping bags. Brandon followed, carrying a case of champagne. They both froze when they saw me standing in their living room. "Amanda?" Rachel's voice rose in confusion. "You're early. How did you get in?" "Hello, Rachel," I said calmly. "I got in using the spare key registered on the loan documents." The loan documents with my name on them. The color drained from her face. Brandon set down the champagne, looking between us in confusion. "What is she talking about, Rachel?" Rachel quickly recovered, laughing nervously. "I have no idea." "Amanda, this is ridiculous. You can't just break into our house before the party." "Actually," Mr. Thompson stepped forward, "Ms. Walker has every right to be here, as the house is legally in her name." "I'm Gregory Thompson, fraud investigation specialist with Northeast Federal Bank." Brandon's confusion deepened. "What?" "The house is in our names. We signed the papers." "No, Brandon," I corrected him. "Rachel forged my signature on the loan documents. She stole my identity to buy this house because neither of you could qualify for a mortgage of this size." The doorbell rang, interrupting the confrontation. Rachel glanced anxiously toward the entrance. "That'll be the first guests," she said, trying to move past me. "We can discuss this nonsense later." "By all means," I replied, stepping aside. "Let's discuss it with everyone present." For the next 20 minutes, Rachel tried desperately to maintain the facade of the perfect hostess while shooting me panicked glances. Guests arrived steadily, friends, colleagues, neighbors, all exclaiming over the beautiful house and congratulating Rachel and Brandon on their success. I waited until most of the guests had arrived before making my move. When Rachel was surrounded by a group of admiring friends in the great room, I clinked a spoon against a champagne glass, calling for attention. "I'd like to make a toast," I announced, my voice carrying through the open space. "To new beginnings." Rachel's eyes widened in alarm. She started toward me, but it was too late. "For those who don't know me, I'm Amanda Walker, Rachel's sister. And I'd like to congratulate my sister on her beautiful new home, purchased with my stolen identity and nearly $1 million of fraudulent debt in my name." A shocked silence fell over the room. Rachel's smile froze on her face. "Amanda, you're making a scene," she hissed. "This isn't the time or place." "Actually, I think it's exactly the right time and place," I replied, then turned back to the stunned guests. "My sister forged my signature on loan documents, stole my personal information, and opened multiple credit accounts in my name to furnish this house. I'd like to introduce Mr. Thompson from Northeast Federal Bank, who is here to discuss the fraud investigation." Mr. Thompson stepped forward, professional and somber. "I can confirm that the mortgage on this property was obtained fraudulently using Ms. Walker's personal information. We have substantial evidence, including IP addresses, security footage, and forged documents." Rachel's face contorted with rage and fear. "This is absurd. Brandon, tell them." Brandon looked shell-shocked. "Rachel, what have you done?" "Nothing. They're lying." She turned to the crowd, her voice taking on the familiar wounded tone I'd heard so many times. "Amanda's always been jealous of me. She can't stand to see me happy." Maxwell chose that moment to produce the evidence he'd gathered. "Mrs. Phillips, we have copies of your text messages discussing how to obtain your sister's personal information. We have records from the computer repair shop where you asked how to edit PDF documents. We have your browser history showing searches for how to forge electronic signatures and penalties for identity theft." The room had gone deadly quiet. Guests began to edge toward the door, murmuring awkward excuses. "Don't leave," Rachel cried desperately. "This is all a misunderstanding." Just then, our parents arrived, stopping short at the scene before them. My mother's hand flew to her mouth in shock. "Mom, Dad," Rachel rushed to them. "Amanda's gone crazy. She's telling everyone horrible lies about me." My father's face was grave. "Are they lies, Rachel?" "Because the bank called us yesterday about the investigation." "You knew?" Rachel's voice rose hysterically. "You knew and you still came to my party?" "We came to see if it was true," my mother whispered. "We couldn't believe you would do something like this." Brandon had been silently reviewing the documents Mr. Thompson provided. He looked up, his face ashen. "The loan application. This is your signature, Rachel. I watched you sign it. You told me it was your investment account." The last of Rachel's composure crumbled. "Fine," she screamed, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, I did it. We were drowning in debt. Brandon's company was failing. We were about to lose everything. So you decided to make me lose everything instead?" I asked quietly. "You've always had it so easy," Rachel sobbed. "Perfect credit, perfect job, perfect boyfriend. Everything just falls into your lap." "I worked for everything I have," I countered. "I saved. I made responsible choices. Nothing fell into my lap." "We just needed a fresh start," she pleaded, turning to our parents. "I was going to pay it back. Once Brandon's business recovered, we would have refinanced in our names." "And if his business never recovered?" my father asked. "What then?" Rachel had no answer. Brandon's voice was cold when he finally spoke. "You lied to me. You committed fraud and made me an accessory. Do you understand what you've done to us? To our future?" The remaining guests had quietly departed, leaving only family and the professionals I'd brought. Rachel stood alone in the center of her dream house, abandoned by the friends she'd been so eager to impress. "What happens now?" Brandon asked Mr. Thompson. "That depends on Ms. Walker," he replied, turning to me. As the victim, she has options for how to proceed. All eyes turned to me. The decision I'd been dreading had arrived. The days following the housewarming confrontation passed in a blur of legal meetings, bank appointments, and emotional conversations. After the guests had departed and Rachel's tearful confessions subsided, Mr. Thompson had outlined the next steps. "Ms. Walker has 3 main options," he explained to everyone present. "She can press criminal charges, which would likely result in arrest and prosecution for identity theft and mortgage fraud. She can pursue civil remedies to recover damages and clear her credit. Or she can allow Mrs. Phillips to attempt to make restitution without court involvement." Brandon, still reeling from the revelation of his wife's actions, had turned to me. "Amanda, I swear I didn't know. Rachel told me the down payment came from a trust fund she'd never mentioned before. I thought the house was in our names." I believed him. Brandon had always been straightforward in our interactions, and his shock appeared genuine. He was a victim of Rachel's deception too, though in a different way. That night, I didn't give them an answer. I needed time to consider all implications, to consult with legal experts, and to process my own tumultuous emotions. I left Rachel and Brandon standing in their fraudulently obtained dream home, uncertainty hanging over their future. The following Monday, I met with Jessica Martinez to discuss legal options. Criminal charges would almost certainly result in jail time for Rachel, Jessica explained. Mortgage fraud of this magnitude, combined with identity theft, typically carries a sentence of 3 to 5 years, plus restitution. The thought of my sister in prison made me physically ill, despite everything she'd done. "What about civil remedies?" I asked. "You could sue for damages, including harm to your credit score, emotional distress, and costs incurred in resolving the fraud. The court would likely order the house sold to repay the loan, with any proceeds going to you as compensation." "And the third option?" "Private restitution." Jessica's expression turned cautious. "That's risky. Without court enforcement, Rachel could renege on any agreement. Given her history, I wouldn't recommend it. After careful consideration, I chose a middle path. I wouldn't press criminal charges immediately, but I would file them and hold them in abeyance, a legal sword of Damocles hanging over Rachel's head to ensure compliance with a structured restitution plan. The terms were non-negotiable. Rachel and Brandon would immediately deed the house to me. They would move out within 30 days. They would provide signed confessions and assume legal responsibility for all fraudulent accounts. They would enter credit counseling and financial therapy. And Rachel would have no unsupervised access to my parents' financial information. Brandon agreed immediately. Rachel resisted until he threatened divorce if she didn't comply. I could lose everything because of what you did, he told her. My business reputation, my future, my freedom. Signing these papers is the only way forward. 2 weeks after the confrontation, Rachel and Brandon signed the necessary documents in a sterile conference room at Jessica's law office. Rachel couldn't meet my eyes as she scrawled her signature, her real one this time, on page after page of legal forms. I am sorry, Amanda, she whispered as we prepared to leave. I never thought about how this would affect you. That's always been the problem, Rachel. You never think about how your actions affect others. Untangling the financial mess took months. The bank reversed the fraudulent charges on the credit cards and removed the mortgage from my credit history. My credit score, which had plummeted nearly 200 points, slowly began to recover. The credit monitoring service I enrolled in sent regular updates showing my financial identity gradually being restored. The house presented a more complicated problem. I couldn't afford the taxes and upkeep on such an expensive property, but selling it in a down market would likely result in a loss. After consulting with financial advisors, I decided to rent it out temporarily to cover costs until the market improved. My relationship with my parents entered a strange new chapter. They struggled to reconcile their love for both daughters with the undeniable evidence of Rachel's betrayal. Family dinners became awkward affairs, with Rachel conspicuously absent and my parents avoiding any mention of her. We failed you both, my father said during one such dinner, 3 months after the confrontation. We should have stopped Rachel's behavior when she was young. We should have taught her consequences instead of making excuses. We were afraid of her tantrums, my mother admitted. It was easier to placate her than confront her. We never realized we were setting her up for this. Their recognition, though late, helped heal some of my hurt. They began therapy to address their enabling patterns and to learn healthier family dynamics. Rachel and Brandon separated 6 months after the incident. The strain of the aftermath, combined with the financial constraints of their restitution plan, proved too much for their marriage. Brandon moved to Pittsburgh to restart his career away from the scandal, while Rachel found a small apartment and a job in retail, her first consistent employment in years. Our sister relationship entered an indefinite hiatus. The betrayal was too profound, the breach of trust too complete for immediate reconciliation. I agreed to minimal contact, monitored emails and occasional supervised visits with our parents, but made no promises about the future. Daniel remained my rock throughout the ordeal. His unwavering support and practical perspective helped me navigate the complex emotions and challenging decisions. On the 1-year anniversary of discovering the fraud, he proposed during a quiet dinner at home. You've shown incredible strength and compassion this year, he said, presenting a modest but beautiful ring. I can't imagine facing life's challenges with anyone else. I said yes without hesitation. Our engagement became a symbol of moving forward, of building something authentic and honest after the deception. As for my own home ownership dreams, they were delayed but not destroyed. The equity from eventually selling Rachel's house would provide a substantial down payment when the time was right. Daniel and I decided to wait until after our wedding to begin house hunting, prioritizing our relationship over real estate. The most profound change occurred within me. I learned to set boundaries with family members, to require respect rather than accept mistreatment, and to trust my instincts about when something wasn't right. The financial analyst in me became even more vigilant about monitoring accounts and protecting personal information, but I refused to let suspicion overshadow my capacity for trust. 6 months after the confrontation, I received an unexpected letter from Rachel. Unlike her previous apologies, this one contained no excuses, no self-pity, and no requests for forgiveness. Instead, she acknowledged the full impact of her actions, took complete responsibility, and expressed genuine remorse. I've been working with my therapist to understand why I've spent my life taking things that don't belong to me, she wrote. I don't expect you to forgive me. What I did is unforgivable. But I want you to know I'm finally facing the person I've been and working to become someone different. Someone better. I didn't respond immediately. The letter sat on my desk for weeks as I processed my feelings. Eventually, I wrote back, not with forgiveness, but with acknowledgement of her efforts and cautious hope for her recovery. Recovery became the theme of that year. My credit score recovered. My parents recovered their backbone. Rachel began recovering from her toxic patterns. And I recovered my sense of security, my trust in my own judgment, and my belief that standing up for myself wasn't selfish, but necessary. The experience taught me that family relationships, like financial investments, require due diligence, clear boundaries, and occasional auditing. Love doesn't mean allowing yourself to be exploited. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and the other person is to say no more and mean it. 18 months after that life-changing bank notification, my world looks remarkably different. Daniel and I are married now, having exchanged vows in a small ceremony attended by close friends and family, including Rachel, who sat quietly in the back row, respecting my request for distance while still showing support. The house on Lakeview Terrace finally sold last month, fetching enough to completely settle the fraudulent loan and provide a substantial sum toward our own home purchase. Daniel and I have already started looking at modest condos closer to the city, places we can truly afford on our combined incomes. My relationship with my parents has evolved into something healthier and more balanced. Their therapy helped them recognize their role in enabling Rachel's behavior, and they've worked hard to respect boundaries and avoid falling into old patterns. Our Sunday dinners resumed with new ground rules. Honest communication, no triangulation, and acknowledgement of uncomfortable truths rather than sweeping them under the rug. As for Rachel, her journey toward accountability continues. She completed a financial responsibility course as part of our agreement and has maintained steady employment for over a year, a personal record. She lives simply now, within her means, in a small apartment where she's gradually rebuilding her life from scratch. We're not close and may never regain the sisterly bond one once hoped for, but we've established a cautious, limited relationship based on her continued demonstration of changed behavior. Trust, once shattered, can't be instantly restored. It must be rebuilt brick by brick, over time, through consistent actions rather than promises. Brandon filed for divorce and moved across the country to start fresh. Last I heard, his business was slowly recovering in a new market where his reputation wasn't tarnished by association with Rachel's fraud. He sends holiday cards, but otherwise maintains his distance from the Walker family drama. The bank used my case to implement new security protocols for mortgage applications, including additional verification steps and fraud alerts. Mr. Thompson was promoted to head of the security department and occasionally emails to check on my well-being. My credit score has finally returned to its previous excellent rating, though I now approach financial matters with heightened vigilance. I monitor all accounts weekly, maintain strict privacy settings, and keep important documents in a small home safe, precautions that once seemed paranoid but now feel prudent. The most profound changes, however, have occurred internally. I've learned that setting boundaries isn't selfish but essential for healthy relationships. I've discovered my own capacity for compassion without capitulation, for forgiveness without forgetting. And I've developed a deeper understanding of the complex family dynamics that shaped both Rachel and me into the women we became. In therapy, yes, I needed it too after all this. I explored why I had allowed Rachel to take advantage of me repeatedly throughout our lives. I recognized my own enabling behavior, my desire to keep the peace, to be the good sister, to earn approval through sacrifice. Breaking those patterns proved as challenging for me as breaking her taking patterns was for Rachel. The incident taught me valuable lessons that no financial education could provide. First, trust must be earned and maintained, not automatically granted based on family ties or shared history. Second, financial security requires vigilance, especially in a digital age where identity theft can happen with frightening ease. Third, enabling bad behavior doesn't help anyone, not the enabler, not the enabled, and certainly not the relationship between them. Fourth, standing up for yourself isn't mean or selfish, but necessary for your well-being and, ultimately, for the growth of those who would take advantage of you. And finally, recovery from betrayal is possible, but it happens on your timeline, not according to someone else's schedule of apologies or expectations of forgiveness. I don't know what the future holds for Rachel and me. Perhaps someday we'll rebuild a relationship based on mutual respect rather than patterns of taking and forgiving. Perhaps we'll remain distant relatives who see each other only at family gatherings. Either way, I've made peace with the understanding that I can love my sister without allowing her to harm me. As for me, I'm finally closing on my own home next month, a modest but lovely condo that Daniel and I can comfortably afford. The down payment comes partially from the sale of Rachel's fraudulently obtained house, a fitting full-circle moment in this complicated journey. Life rarely gives us neat, perfect endings. Instead, it offers opportunities to learn, grow, and choose better paths forward. My sister took a $800,000 loan in my name to buy a house, but in the process, she inadvertently gave me something more valuable: the strength to stand up for myself and the wisdom to create healthier boundaries in all my relationships. If you're watching this and dealing with family betrayal or financial fraud, know that recovery is possible. Your story isn't over because of someone else's actions. You can reclaim your narrative, your security, and your peace of mind. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever experienced betrayal from someone close to you? How did you handle it? Would you have confronted your sister as I did, or chosen a different approach? Please like and subscribe if this story resonated with you, and share it with someone who might need to hear that they're not alone in navigating complicated family dynamics. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I wish you strength and wisdom in your own.